Even after death, adornment continued to speak that in elite tombs. Bodies were buried with full regalia. Jade masks fitted to the face, gold discs placed over the chest, shell bracelets, obsidian blades, turquoise anklets. These weren't grave goods. They were keys, unlocking safe passage to the afterlife, where beauty still mattered, where one's cosmic role remained intact. To be buried naked or unadorned was not merely shameful, it was dangerous, because in the afterlife, as in life, the gods recognized you by your color, your metal, your glyph, your glow. And though the Spanish invaders melted the gold, stole the gems, and outlawed the rituals, the deeper essence of adornment survived. In embroidered huipils in woven bracelets at Day of the Dead festivals. In the pride with which a young girl today wears her grandmother's necklace, not because it's expensive, but because it remembers. Because in Mesoamerica, beauty was history made visible, and jewelry was its alphabet. To truly grasp the depth of adornment in Maya and Aztec cultures, we must understand that jewelry was not passive, it was active. Magic. That a necklace was not a necklace. That it was a ward, a spell, a contract between the wearer and the cosmos. Some amulets were carved with glyphs so tiny they required ritual ink to be read by the gods. Others bore tiny obsidian mirrors, meant to reflect evil spirits away, or perhaps to reflect the true self beneath the flesh. These mirrors weren't for vanity. They were for soul vision, used by priests and diviners to scry into the unseen. Or such a mirror over the heart or brow was to make oneself a beacon or a warning. There were also gendered dimensions to adornment. Among the Maya, women's adornments emphasized cyclical power, fertility, moon, weaving, renewal. Shell necklaces, colored red with cochineal dye, invoked life force and blood wisdom. Gold wasn't always the metal of choice. For women, mother of pearl, shell, and jade held deeper symbolic resonance, echoing the womb, the ocean, and ancestral lineage. Men, especially warriors, leaned toward obsidian, bone, and brightly colored feathers, all tied to death, the hunt, and solar energy. Yet these boundaries weren't rigid. That high-ranking priestesses often wore serpent belts and jaguar tooth earrings, symbols usually coded as masculine. And male oracles sometimes dressed in veils of shell and perfume, transcending gender entirely. Adornment was fluid, and through that fluidity, it revealed the complexity of identity in a world far more flexible than ours often imagines. We must not forget the artisans, either the unseen creators behind these treasures. They were more than craftsmen. They were world makers. A feather worker, called amantica, in Aztec society was to hold a near priestly status. These artisans trained for decades, mastering the delicate layering of feathers with invisible threads, creating imagery so intricate that it could rival painting. Feather mosaics weren't just decoration. They were offerings in themselves. Some were used to clothe statues of gods. Others were offered up and never worn, their sole purpose being to please the divine. Then there were the curses and blessings attached to adornments. Some rings were carved with protective prayers. Some necklaces were worn only during rituals and locked away afterward, never to see sunlight again, lest their power leak. Adornment could bring favor or doom. There are stories of noblemen who died after donning a mask they had no right to wear, that of children who fell ill because they played with a priest's discarded earplugs. These weren't mere tales. They were warnings. To wear what you were not spiritually aligned with was to invite imbalance, or worse, divine wrath. In this way, every bracelet was a contract. Every earring, a commitment. You didn't simply choose your jewelry. You were chosen by it. And perhaps this is what makes Mesoamerican adornment so haunting. Even today, that IT wasn't just beautiful, that IT was dangerous, that IT was sacred, that IT was a living interface between the mundane and the divine. And though the feathers may have turned to dust, and the jade may now sit silently in museum cases, the pulse of meaning still hums beneath them, waiting for someone to listen again. They say beauty fades, but in the ruins of a Maya temple, beneath the vines and moss, beauty waits, not in the stone carvings alone, but in the ideas those carvings still carry. Because what we've traced across this journey, from jade in the ears of kings to the black charcoal smudged on the cheeks of a commoner, is not just a record of aesthetic taste, that it's a record of hope, of how human beings, faced with drought, war, gods that demanded blood, still chose to paint their faces, still chose to shine. What does it mean when a people, facing such harshness, devote themselves to color, to scent, to weaving hair into halos, to etching tiny symbols into obsidian, knowing only the gods will see? It means they understood something that we have almost forgotten. Beauty is resistance. It's not just celebration, that it's not vanity, it's a stand against chaos. The Maya and the Aztec didn't adorn themselves only because they had the time, the means, or the tradition. They adorned themselves because it mattered in a world where the sun might not rise unless properly honored. Beauty was part of the machinery of survival. IT kept the cosmic clock ticking. IT soothed the spirits of the dead. IT marked transitions, birth, puberty, war, death. IT told the gods, we remember. We are still here. And isn't that still true? Don't we still paint our faces before something terrifying? A first date, a funeral, a stage, a job interview. As if trying to armor ourselves with light, don't we still wear something passed down? A ring, a scarf, a threadbare bracelet. Not because it's fashionable, but because it connects us to someone we've lost. Don't we still carry lucky charms, tattoos of names, feathers tucked in diaries, perfume we never wear but always keep? We do, and in that, we echo them. Asteriskly. Often look at ancient beauty standards and laugh. Filed teeth, feathered crowns, bone jewelry, but remove the specifics, and what remains is deeply familiar. The urge to belong, the desire to express, the instinct to remember, the need to matter. And in a way, that's all beauty ever was. Not a distraction, not a luxury, but a language. A way of saying, this is who I am. This is who I come from. This is who I hope to become. Even now, if you walk through the highlands of Chiapas or the markets of Oaxaca, you'll see it. Not in museums, but in motion. A little girl with braids wrapped in red yarn, an elder with earrings shaped like ears of corn. A vendor with a tattoo that matches a centuries-old glyph, and through them, the old world breathes. IT doesn't just survive, it adorns itself again. Asterisk. So when someone asks, why did they bother? Why did the Maya smear crushed insects on their lips? Why did the Aztec paint their faces blue before battle? Why all the feathers, the gold, the pain, the ritual? The answer is simple. Because in a world full of darkness, they chose color. In a world ruled by death, they chose life. In a universe of silence, they made themselves seen. And in doing so, they left behind something louder than a pyramid and deeper than a calendar. They left behind beauty, and through it, they left behind themselves. He moves through Edo as if sewn into its fabric. One looks twice at him as he passes down the back alleys of the city, where silken courtesans whisper behind paper screens and errand boys splash water from their buckets. He knows which boards creak, which dogs bark, which houses keep doors unlocked in daylight. It is not magic, it is repetition. Years of walking the same circuits. Years of studying human blindness. Behind him, the man with the pedal has risen. Not alone, not in panic, but with the calm urgency of someone trained. This is no merchant or poet. This is someone who understands what that black blossom meant. Someone who has likely lived by the blade too. Perhaps another killer. Or a spy. Perhaps, though unlikely, a decoy. It doesn't matter. They will follow. They must. The pedal is bait, and the assassin is the unseen hook pulling them forward through the tide of everyday life. He changes direction twice, just to be sure. Past a lantern shop, then into a fishmonger's stall, nodding to a vendor he once saved from a pickpocket. No words exchanged, only a glance. That's all he needs. A brief moment behind the curtains of the stall, and his robe is reversed. The dull gray outside becomes indigo inside. A sash, twisted differently. A scarf added. Nothing drastic. Just enough to make the eyes forget who they saw. The man chasing him walks past him 3 seconds later. Doesn't flinch. Doesn't turn. Behind the assassin's new face, a breath is exhaled. There is no triumph in escape. Only confirmation. The game has begun. The sun dips just slightly westward now. Shadows stretch longer. The city gets louder. And somewhere beneath the noise and heat of Edo's mid-afternoon, 2 men are now dancing. Not with music, not with steps, but with silence and purpose, and the certainty that only one will see the moon tonight. Asterisk now, the tempo slows. Not because the danger has passed, but because it's settled into the bones of the city. He walks with the calm rhythm of someone who knows violence is no longer an if, but a when. Every breath is now a measure. Every step, a page in a silent score. He enters a tea house he has never visited, yet where he knows the layout by heart. The server greets him with a polite bow, eyes glancing down, not out of submission, but training. She has seen others like him, knows not to ask questions. He orders nothing, merely sits that he chooses a seat with his back to a wall, facing the window, just as he was taught. The mark will be looking for him now, or his decoy, or worse, someone he sent ahead. Assassins like him don't fear death. They anticipate betrayal. Outside the window, the world carries on. Children run with paper kites. A carpenter hums while sanding a beam. From somewhere deeper in the alley, a biwa player plucks a slow, aching melody, and beneath it all, a current runs. Dark and invisible, he closes his eyes for one heartbeat, then opens them. It is time to finish the observation, to set the final scene. The strike won't come yet, but it will soon. Before the sun kisses the edge of the horizon, before shadows overtake the lanterns, the city is a stage, and he is the man who always walks off it, alone. Asterisk, he does not linger in the tea house. Stillness is important, but so is flow, like a stream avoiding rocks. He exits with the same soft-footed step he entered, and the world receives him again as just another man with nothing to prove. But inside, everything sharpens. The mark, if it is truly the man from the garden, will not remain idle for long. The pedal was not merely a message, it was a challenge. In the world of the shogunate's shadow operatives, there are few signs more intimate than the pedal. It is never used on the first strike. It is used when the target is already known, when death is not just a sentence but a ritual. And so, the assassin becomes the bait that he takes to the rooftops now, just briefly, running the narrow edge of a beam behind the silken banners of a fabric merchant. Children laugh below, unaware. From above, he sees the mark, or at least the silhouette, stepping quickly through the crowd, too quickly to be casual. His robe flutters like it's chasing the wind, but the assassin knows better. It's not the wind he's chasing. It's him. Good that he allows himself to be seen, just once. A flicker between chimneys. A shadow at the edge of a pagoda roof. Enough to confirm, enough to provoke that he drops silently into a blind alley near the canal. Dusts his hands. Waits. Not for the strike. Not yet. He is riding the rhythm of death. With steps and glances. He is giving his mark the illusion of control. And when men believe they have control, that is when they die easiest. The bell tower tolls once. Distant. But he hears it as a drumbeat. It will not toll twice before the first blade is drawn. Asterisk, he waits in the alley not with bated breath, but measured calm. To wait is not passive. It is tactical. It allows sound to settle, to reveal what movement conceals. A vendor's voice fades. A cart rattles past. Somewhere nearby, a bird flutters, then grows still. The city breathes, and he listens. Then there, footsteps, too soft for a common merchant, too regular for someone who's lost. They pause, not out of confusion, but caution. A moment of silence, and then a second pair of steps, slower, heavier. The mark has not come alone. Of course not. That would be foolish, but the alley is not a trap for the assassin. It is a mirror. He already knows where the wall bends inward, where the drain beneath the rain barrel leads, where the broken lattice can be loosened by touch, offering silent escape if needed. This place, this moment, was chosen not by luck, but memory. The first man enters, not the mark, but a guard, cloaked in civilian dress, pretending not to walk with purpose. He scans, slowly, eyes searching shadows. The assassin does not breathe, not out of fear, out of precision. Then comes the second. The mark. It is him, the nobleman from the garden. Only now he wears a dagger at his side and a face that pretends calm. His eyes search ahead and do not see. They expect an ambush, but they misunderstand the rhythm, because this is not the moment of the strike. Not yet. The assassin watches them walk past the hidden place he stands. So close he could touch the hem of the mark's robe. But he doesn't. He watches and waits, because killing a man is easy, but watching him live just long enough to be afraid. That is the art. Asterisk, the alley empties. The guard and the mark vanish into the blur of city sounds. Footsteps swallowed by the rhythm of Edo's veins. But their presence lingers, like smoke after a candle is snuffed. The assassin remains in place, unmoving, until even the silence feels settled. He steps out not into the open, but into motion. One fluid glide across the alley floor, up a crate, onto a low wall. His path is not one of resistance. It's water finding the crack in stone. He doesn't run. He flows. Now, he shadows them. Not too close. That would invite suspicion. Not too far. That would concede control. He studies the way the mark carries himself, slightly tense now, like a bird that's heard a sound but can't find the hawk. The guard is alert but sloppy. A hired sword, not a brother of the craft. They speak briefly near a lantern vendor. The assassin reads lips, not words. Is he here? No sign. We wait. We move. The mark's voice is tight. That's good that he is beginning to sense it. The noose drawn slowly, elegantly around the mind. A man hunted doesn't fear being killed. He fears not knowing when. The assassin turns down a side path. He knows where. They're heading. The inn near the stone bridge. It has only 2 exits. He'll take the third. Not everyone knows the third, that he slips through a gate, down an unused garden corridor, past an incense brazier where old sandalwood smolders faintly. In the dusk, the scent clings to him, not unwanted. It will confuse the guard's nose, mask his steps. Everything is a tool. Even scent. He emerges at the rear of the inn moments before the others arrive at the front. Timing is everything. He crouches low behind a sliding panel beneath the veranda, where shadows overlap. His hand gently rests on the hilt of the blade, tucked into his belt, not drawn, not yet. He doesn't crave the moment. He curates it. Inside the inn, the paper doors begin to slide. The next chapter begins, but not yet. The inn breathes like a living thing. Sliding doors whisper. Tatama mats creak with weight. A woman laughs behind a screen, too loud, too practiced. She is part of the act. A paid distraction, maybe unaware. Or maybe she knows exactly who she's serving tea to, and who waits beneath the veranda outside. The assassin watches her silhouette glide across rice paper, graceful and unaware. He does not hate her for her part in this. The city runs on rolls, and not all masks are worn by choice. Inside, the Mark removes his sandals. That small, human gesture, mundane, polite, somehow makes the moment more intimate, more disturbing. A man can look so normal just before he dies, but not yet. The guard speaks first. His voice low, gravel thick. He says something about shifting, plans, about not staying long. The Mark disagrees, wants to wait, believes it's safer inside than outside. Wrong. The assassin moves now, silently, up from the shadows, into the servant corridor. Every step rehearsed, every breath paced. A hand passes over the wood frame of the door, not pushing it open, but feeling for vibration. Sound is a map that he waits. Footsteps. One man exits the main room to relieve himself. The guard. Perfect. The moment is thinner now, like the surface of still water before the first drop that he enters. Not with a lunge, with a whisper of a slide. His feet on the mat make no more noise than a spider crossing silk. The Mark is seated, back toward the door, a dish of tea in his hand. Untouched, he does not see the assassin at first, but he senses him. Some men have that instinct. Even when they pretend they don't, the Mark does not turn. He simply speaks. You're late. A silence follows. A moment. That folds time in half. The assassin does not answer. The Mark sets the teacup down, slowly. I suppose this is where I beg, he says. Still, no response. I won't. That's when he turns, slowly, deliberately, and for the first time, their eyes meet. It is not rage that the assassin sees, nor fear. It is resignation. The look of a man who has lived long enough to know that every end was already written. But, still, the blade does not leave its sheath. Not yet. The assassin kneels across from him. Not as an equal. As a messenger. The Mark tilts his head. So what now? Asterisk. The assassin's gaze does not waver. No words escape his lips. His presence is the message. The Mark studies him carefully, tracing every scar, every line on the face of the silent visitor. There is a history here, one not spoken but understood. The faintest crease of pain softens the edges of his otherwise composed mask. You remember, don't you? The Mark says quietly. The day in Kyoto, before the fall. The river, beneath the cherry trees. You spared me then. What? The assassin's eyes flicker, betraying nothing. But in that silence, 1,000 unspoken answers hang suspended. Mercy was a currency both men once dealt in, and both had reason to regret. Today, the Mark continues. You come to collect your debt. He folds his hands on the table. I'm ready. The assassin shifts slightly, just enough for the faint glint of a Tonto's edge to catch the lantern light. It is a promise, not a threat. A moment passes, stretched like a silk thread pulled taut. The weight of countless choices presses between them. Then the Mark smiles, thin and bitter. So this is how honor ends. Not with a roar, but a whisper. The assassin kneels lower, bowing his head, not to the man, but to the inevitable. Not honor, he seems to say without words. Necessity. Outside, the night thickens. The inn's lanterns flicker. Somewhere, a cicada's cry begins, sharp and solitary. The final act is near. But for now, in this quiet room, two men share the fragile space between life and death, linked by fate and by the silence that precedes the blade. Asterisk, the assassin's gaze remains steady, unwavering. There is no haste, no rush. His hand rests lightly on the hilt of his tanto, a silent reminder that the blade is near, but not yet drawn. The air between them vibrates with unspoken history, a tapestry of past deeds, regrets, and the cold inevitability of fate. The mark's bitter smile fades into something colder, harder. I once believed that the sword was justice, that it could carve right from wrong, life from death. Now I see. It is merely a tool, wielded by those who survive. The assassin inclines his head slightly, acknowledging the truth without speaking it aloud. Words are needless here. His mission transcends simple notions of right and wrong. It is order, balance, and duty, an invisible thread binding him to this moment. Outside, the sound of footsteps echoes softly in the corridor, a reminder that time is slipping away. The guard waits near the entrance, alert but unaware of the silent exchange unfolding just beyond the paper walls. The mark leans forward, voice lowered. Do you ever wonder what might have been? If we had chosen differently? If the war had never come? The assassin's eyes flicker briefly, a shadow of a thought, but his expression remains unreadable. This is not a moment for sentiment that he shifts slightly, fingers tightening on the tanto's hilt. The faintest breath escapes him, steady and controlled. Enough, the mark says, straightening. Your mercies saved me once, but today I accept what I owe. The assassin rises with fluid grace, the room seeming to contract with his movement. The moment stretches, taut and fragile. Outside, a lantern flickers, casting long shadows that dance like ghosts. Then, with a sudden precision born of years in the shadows, the assassin draws his blade. Asterisk, the moment the assassin draws his blade, the room's fragile silence fractures like thin ice breaking beneath heavy feet. The nobleman remains seated, unflinching, eyes steady, as if accepting the fate he once tried to escape. The guard outside tenses, sensing the shift, but the assassin moves with such quiet precision that the paper door barely whispers against the frame. Steel gleams faintly in the lantern light as the assassin steps forward, blade poised, not to strike recklessly, but to deliver the final message etched into every movement. Death is both an ending and a sentence carried with honor. The nobleman reaches beneath his robe, revealing a short dagger, its handle worn from use. The air thickens, with unspoken challenge, a duel not just of weapons but wills. Neither man is eager. Both are bound by the invisible chains of duty, regret, and survival. Suddenly, the assassin's blade arcs smoothly, a flash of steel met by the nobleman's counter. The clash is brief, fluid, an exchange of shadows and intent. Neither seeks glory. Both move as extensions of years spent mastering the art of survival in a world where a single mistake meant oblivion. Outside, footsteps approach. The guard, alerted, is close. The assassin knows time thins, each breath weighted with urgency. With a final, deliberate motion, the assassin disarms his opponent, the dagger falling to the tatami with a soft thud. He steps back, gaze locked on the nobleman's eyes, a silent acknowledgement of respect, closure, and the finality of the moment. The nobleman nods once, slow and solemn. May your blade be swift. Without hesitation, the assassin ends it. Swift, clean, merciful. The blade finds its mark with the precision of a whispered secret. The nobleman slumps forward, eyes closing, as the assassin sheathes his tanto and bows deeply. Outside, the world continues. Unaware, unchanging, the hunter steps into the night. Asterisk B. Moment the blade slips free, time seems to slow. The nobleman's eyes flutter shut, his body relaxing into the quiet embrace of finality. The assassin withdraws the tanto with practiced care, wiping the edge briefly on the sleeve of his robe, before slipping it back into its sheath. There is no triumph here, no celebration, only the cold, unyielding certainty of duty fulfilled. He bows deeply over the fallen man, a silent farewell to a life intertwined with his own in ways neither could fully confess. Outside, the night air is cool, carrying the faint sense of jasmine and wood smoke. The assassin slips from the inn before the guard even notices, melting into the labyrinthine alleys of Edo like a shadow dissolving at dawn. Every step is deliberate, every breath controlled. His mind is already shifting forward, planning his next move, assessing threats unseen. The city is vast, its secrets many, but he is no stranger to its darkness. That eye in the distance. Temple bells toll midnight, a reminder that the world keeps turning, indifferent to the lives carved into its history. For the assassin, the day has ended, but tomorrow promises another dawn. The assassin moves swiftly yet silently through the twisting maze of Edo's narrow alleys, each step measured, each breath steady. The night cloaks him like a second skin, shadows folding around his figure as if welcoming a long-lost kin behind him. The faintest ripple of disturbance begins to grow. The guards will soon realize the mark is no longer alive. But for now, the assassin is a ghost slipping between paper lanterns and wooden lattices, disappearing into the city's eternal murmur. His mind is distant, already turning inward. This life, woven from secrets and steel, leaves little room for rest. Every mission demands sacrifice. Every victory bears the weight of isolation. He passes a quiet tea house where lanterns sway gently, casting pools of warm light onto the street. Inside, patrons laugh softly, unaware of the shadow that just passed. His thoughts drift briefly to the past, the days before this path, before the war tore apart families and dreams. To the fleeting moments of mercy, the rare acts of kindness he allowed himself. But the present is relentless. Survival demands focus. Honor demands action. As the first light of dawn threatens the horizon, he slips into the embrace of a hidden courtyard, where a few potted bonsai trees whisper ancient secrets in the morning breeze. Here, alone, he pauses. Not a single breath, a silent prayer. Then, without looking back, he steps forward into the day, ready to begin again. Asterisk as the first light of dawn begins to soften the edges of Edo's rooftops, the assassin finds himself alone in a secluded courtyard. The city around him stirs, vendors prepare their stalls, children's laughter floats faintly on the breeze, and the rhythmic clang of blacksmiths' hammers echoes from distant alleys. But here, in this quiet refuge, time seems to slow. He kneels beside a small stone basin filled with clear water. His hands, steady but worn, cup the cool liquid and lift it to his face, washing away the shadows of night and the weight of the kill. The ritual is simple, yet sacred. A moment of purification amid a life of darkness. His thoughts drift, not to the mission just completed, but to the long road ahead, to the solitude that follows every task, to the silence that fills the spaces between battles. He contemplates the paradox of his existence. A man who kills in shadows yet craves the light of meaning. A warrior bound by honor yet forever estranged from peace. Slowly, he rises, the dawn casting a pale glow over his features. Calm, resolute, and yet touched by the faintest trace of weariness, the city breathes anew. And so does he. The day begins again. The city of Edo still sleeps beneath a blanket of pre-dawn mist when the assassin awakens. Not with the sun, but long before its pale fingers reach the rooftops, he rises from the thin futon that rests on the wooden floor of his modest quarters. Silence wraps around him like a second skin, broken only by the faint rustle of sliding shoji screens and the distant murmur of the river. His first ritual of the day is physical, a slow, deliberate practice of swordsmanship. In the dim light of a paper lantern, he moves through the kata with fluid grace. Each strike, each parry, each stance is executed with the precision born of countless repetitions. This is no mere exercise. It is a dance of life and death, a preparation for battles yet unseen. But the sword is only one part of his discipline. After the kata, he kneels before a small altar set against the wall. Simple, unadorned, holding only a few offerings. Incense, a single chrysanthemum, and a bowl of fresh water. He lights the incense, its smoke curling upward in delicate spirals, and bows deeply, whispering a prayer. It is a moment to cleanse the spirit, to seek balance and clarity amidst the chaos that his profession demands. His morning meditation follows, eyes closed, breath steady, mind focused. Minutes pass like hours in this stillness. The world outside might roar with conflict, but here, within himself, there is only calm. When the meditation ends, the assassin rises and moves to the small wooden table where a simple breakfast awaits: steamed rice, pickled vegetables, and a bowl of miso soup. He eats quietly, methodically, mindful with every bite. This is not a meal of pleasure, but one of sustenance, fuel for the body that must remain strong, alert, and unyielding. As the first faint light seeps into the room, he steps outside, blending into the awakening city. The streets bustle with merchants setting up stalls, children chasing one another, and townsfolk exchanging greetings. Yet, despite the life around him, the assassin remains apart, a shadow moving through. Daylight, unconnected and unseen, loneliness is a constant companion. The bonds of friendship, family, or love are luxuries he cannot afford. To be known is to be vulnerable, and vulnerability is a fatal flaw. So he walks alone, his thoughts drifting to the past, to lost comrades, to missions that linger in memory like ghosts, and to the weight of every life taken in silence. Honor guides him, yet it also chains him. He wonders if peace is ever truly attainable for men like him, those who live between worlds, neither fully alive in society nor completely free from its rules. His solitude is both prison and sanctuary. As the day grows brighter, he returns home to prepare for what lies ahead. He carefully inspects his weapons, the tanto's edge gleaming sharp, the bowstring taut and ready. His clothing is adjusted with meticulous care, the folds and layers not just fabric, but armor in there. On right, focus hardens in his eyes. The moment for calm has passed. Now, the assassin readies himself for another day beneath Edo's watchful gaze. A life of shadows, discipline, and quiet resolve. As the sun climbs higher, the assassin retreats from the city's noisy pulse into the quiet sanctuary of a nearby garden. This small patch of green, meticulously tended and framed by bamboo fences, offers a rare breath of peace amid the chaos of Edo. He kneels beside a stone basin, hands moving deftly to scoop cool water, rinsing the dust and sweat from his face and arms. The ritual is both cleansing and grounding, a reminder of the fragile balance between life and death he treads every day. Around him, the garden hums softly with the gentle rustle of leaves and the distant chirping of cicadas. For a moment, time seems to loosen its grip, but the calm is fleeting. His thoughts wander to the faces of those he has lost, the friends, foes, and innocents caught in the crossfire of duty. He recalls the weight of each decision, the lives ended, the promises broken, the silent prayers unanswered. Yet, despite the burden, he remains steadfast. The assassin knows that to falter is to invite destruction, not just upon himself, but upon the fragile order he serves. Discipline is his armor, solitude his companion. Returning to his quarters, he attends to his weapons once more. Each blade is sharpened with care, each string checked for tension. His hands move with the grace of someone who has long made ritual. Into survival that he dresses meticulously, layers of dark fabric wrapped and tied to allow ease of movement and concealment. His face, though calm, betrays the weariness of a man who walks a path few dare to follow. Before stepping out once more, he pauses at his altar, offering a silent vow to carry honor in shadow, to balance the scales with every act, to endure the solitude that his life demands. The day is far from over. But for now, in this moment of quiet preparation, the assassin embraces the stillness, knowing that soon the shadows will call him back to their deadly dance. Asterisk as dusk begins to fall, the assassin returns once more to his sparse quarters. The fading light paints long shadows across the wooden floor, mirroring the dark thoughts that swirl beneath his calm exterior. He sits quietly, unrolling a scroll of ink and paper. This moment, brief and solitary, allows him to record fragments of memory, fleeting thoughts, and silent vows. Words are rare weapons in his world, but here they offer a brief reprieve from the silence. His handwriting is deliberate, measured, each stroke a reflection of the discipline he cultivates not just in body, but in mind. He writes not for recognition, but for survival, not for legacy, but for the fragments of peace that might be found in remembrance. Memories flood through him. The faces of those lost in battles past, the quiet smiles of strangers whose lives he changed without ever meeting them, the lingering weight of decisions that still haunt the edges of his conscience. Yet, amid these shadows, a faint light glimmers. The understanding that his path, though lonely and fraught with peril, serves a purpose beyond himself. A fragile hope that honor can endure even in darkness. He closes the scroll, sealing it carefully with a stamp, an emblem of his clan, a mark of identity he seldom reveals. Rising, he moves to the small window, looking out over the rooftops of Edo as lanterns flicker to life across the cityscape. Tomorrow will bring new tasks, new shadows to navigate, but for tonight, he allows himself a moment's quiet before the life of the assassin resumes again with the coming dawn. The night deepens, wrapping Edo in a cloak of quiet shadows. Inside his modest quarters, the assassin sits cross-legged on the tatami mat, the faint scent of sandalwood incense lingering in the air. His eyes close briefly as he enters a state of meditation, seeking to calm the turbulent thoughts that threaten to rise. That I end this stillness. Memories flicker, faces of loved ones lost to war and betrayal, echoes of past missions where mercy was a rare gift and the constant weight of a life lived in the margins. Each thought is like a ripple on a still pond, fading as quickly as it appears. Yet, beneath the calm surface, a restless energy simmers, a reminder that the path he walks is one of endless vigilance. The assassin is always both hunter and hunted, predator and preyed. As the incense burns low, He opens his eyes, resolve hardening in their depths. The dawn will bring new challenges, and he must be ready, body, mind, and spirit. Rising slowly, he prepares his gear once more, checking the balance of his weapons and adjusting the folds of his kimono. Every detail matters. Every movement is a preparation for the dance with death that defines his existence. Outside, the first light of morning begins to hint at the coming day, but for the assassin, time is measured not by the sun, but by the rhythm of the shadows. He steps out into the waking city, a solitary figure poised between light and darkness, honor and survival. The night deepens, cloaking Edo in shadow as the assassin remains seated in the dim glow of his quarters. The faint scent of sandalwood lingers as his mind drifts through the memories of past lives, past choices, and the weight of every silent kill. His hands, steady and practiced, fold the worn scrolls containing his reflections, a hidden testament to a life lived in quiet resolve. He rises slowly, the soft rustle of his kimono the only sound breaking the stillness. Each motion is precise, deliberate, a ritual in itself. With meticulous care, he prepares his weapons for the coming day, checking edges, adjusting the grip, and ensuring every detail is perfect. The balance of blade and body is sacred, and he treats it as such. Looking out the small window, he watches the first pale light touch the rooftops of Edo, signaling the end of night's dominion. But for him, the cycle is endless, a perpetual dance between shadow and light, duty and survival. With a final breath, he steps into the awakening city, ready to face whatever the day will bring, carrying with him the silent weight of his past and the unyielding discipline that defines his path. As the morning sun climbs higher over Edo, the city bursts into life. Merchants hawking their wares, children darting through crowded streets, and the rhythmic clatter of wooden sandals against stone paving echoing through the alleys. Yet amidst this vibrant chaos, the assassin moves with deliberate calm, a shadow blending seamlessly into the bustling crowd. His mission today is clear: to eliminate a corrupt official whose greed and cruelty have sown unrest among the common folk. The target moves with arrogance, surrounded by a small retinue of bodyguards, unaware of the silent predator in their midst. The assassin's eyes scan every detail: the official's gait, the guards' positions, the narrow side streets that might serve as escape routes or ambush points. Preparation is everything. Haste is fatal that he follows from a distance, weaving through the throng, his every movement calculated to avoid suspicion. The city's heartbeat guides him, the clatter of a tea house door, the chatter of street vendors, the toll of distant temple bells. The group approaches a busy market square. The assassin slips into an alleyway, blending with the shadows cast by tall wooden buildings. He positions himself near a crumbling wall, quietly drawing a short bow and knocking an arrow with practiced ease. His breath slows, heartbeat steady. Time contracts into a single point of focus. The target enters the assassin's line of sight, flanked by two guards. The moment has arrived. With a silent release, the arrow flies, swift, true, and deadly. The arrow whistles softly through the morning air, cutting a silent path toward its target. It strikes true, embedding itself deep into the official's shoulder. The man gasps, clutching at the wound, his eyes wide with shock and pain. Chaos erupts instantly. Guards shout orders, drawing swords as the crowd scatters in panic. The assassin doesn't wait. He melts back into the shadows, moving with practiced speed and grace. His feet barely touch the ground as he darts through. narrow alleys and hidden passageways known only to those born and raised in Edo's labyrinthine heart. Behind him, the sounds of pursuit rise, shouts, running footsteps, and the clang of steel on wood. But the assassin is already several steps ahead, weaving through crowded marketplaces, slipping through secret doorways, and crossing over wooden bridges spanning quiet canals. He pauses briefly at a hidden shrine nestled between two buildings, catching his breath and wiping the sweat from his brow. The city's morning hustle continues unaware, the assassin's deadly secret concealed beneath the everyday noise. As the sun climbs higher, he disappears into the maze of Edo's streets, blending once more into the river of humanity, a ghost among the living. The assassin moves swiftly, his breath steady despite the pounding rhythm of pursuit echoing behind him. Each twist and turn through Edo's narrow streets is a calculated gamble, a game he has mastered through years of practice and instinct. His dark robes blend seamlessly with the shadows cast by wooden storefronts and hanging lanterns that he pauses briefly in a small, forgotten courtyard, pressing his back against the cool stone wall. The muffled cries of guards searching nearby drift through the air, but the assassin remains motionless, breathing slow, muscles coiled like a spring. This moment of silence is a stark contrast to the violence of minutes before. The weight of the kill settles over him like a familiar shroud. There is no triumph, only the cold necessity of survival and duty. His thoughts flicker to the target, a man whose greed had poisoned lives, whose death might bring fragile peace to a troubled district. Justice served, but at a personal cost. Few could understand. As the city's noise swells again, the assassin slips away through a hidden passage, winding beneath Edo's streets toward the safety of his quarters. The sun climbs higher, illuminating a city unaware of the shadow it harbors. In the quiet refuge of his room, he removes his hood, revealing a face both hardened by years of conflict and softened by the solitude of reflection. He tends to his weapons, cleans the blood from his blade, and prepares for the endless cycle of night and day. The path of the assassin is lonely and unforgiving, yet it is a path he has chosen, and one he walks with unwavering resolve. Back. In the solitude of his quarters, the assassin pauses before the small altar that anchors his existence amid the chaos. The familiar scent of incense fills the room as he kneels, bowing his head in silent homage. His hands tremble slightly, not from fear, but the weight of the lives he has taken, the burden of a duty that spares no respite. He contemplates the fragile balance between justice and vengeance, honor and survival. Each mission etches deeper into his soul, a constant reminder that the path he walks is narrow and perilous. Yet, despite the darkness that surrounds him, a flicker of hope lingers, the belief that through his shadowed deeds, a sliver of peace might be carved for others. Dusk descends over Edo. The assassin prepares himself once more. The city is never truly safe, and the shadows always call him back. He rises, sheathes his blade, and steps into the night, ready to embrace the endless cycle of life lived between light and dark. The assassin moves quietly through the narrow streets of Edo, the chill of evening settling around him like a shroud. His breath is steady, his steps measured, as he navigates the maze of alleys with the ease of one who belongs to the shadows. Behind him, the distant sounds of pursuit fade into the growing night, swallowed by the hum of lantern-lit streets and the murmur of nightly prayers from temple rooftops. For now, he is safe, but never truly free. Arriving at a secluded tea house known only to those who walk the hidden paths of the city, he slips inside unnoticed. The flicker of candlelight reveals a modest room where a single cup of steaming tea waits on a low wooden table. Tea settles silently, the weight of the day pressing heavily on his shoulders. The assassin's mind wanders to the lives altered by his blade, the families left in mourning, the balance preserved by his hand. Justice, vengeance, survival. The lines blur in a world painted in shades of gray. As he sips the bitter tea, his eyes close briefly. This quiet moment is a rare luxury, a brief respite before the endless night ahead. The assassin knows his path will lead him again into darkness, into shadows where honor and survival intertwine in an eternal dance. He finishes the tea, rises, and fades into the night, ready for whatever comes next. The assassin's footsteps echo softly on the wooden floor of his quarters as he returns from the tea house. The quiet stillness envelopes him, a stark contrast to the chaos that followed the strike. He moves with deliberate calm, setting down his belongings and beginning the meticulous task of cleaning his weapons. Each stroke of the cloth over the blade is precise, a ritual that soothes his restless mind and maintains the sharpness required for survival. Outside, the night deepens, and the city's hum fades into a distant murmur. The assassin gazes briefly out the window, watching the lanterns flicker against the dark sky. The weight of his mission lingers in his thoughts, mingling with the memories of faces, some familiar, others forgotten, etched into his mind like scars. He sighs softly, the burden of 1,000 silent deaths pressing upon him. Yet in the stillness, there is also resolve. A warrior's duty is never done, and honor demands unyielding dedication. Preparing his armor and weapons for the next call, he steels himself for the shadows that await. The dance continues, and the assassin steps once more into the night, a ghost bound by duty and discipline. The night deepens as the assassin moves silently through Edo's shadowed streets, his footsteps barely a whisper against the wooden planks and stone paths. The city's lanterns flicker softly, casting a muted glow that blends with the darkness surrounding him. Though the chaos of the assassination has faded into the distance, its echoes linger in his mind as he slips into a narrow side alley, momentarily pausing beneath the overhang of a worn wooden roof. The cool night air fills his lungs, offering a brief respite from the tension that coils within him like a restless serpent. His fingers tighten around the hilt of his tanto, a silent reminder of the path he has chosen, a path where every step is measured in shadows and silence. The assassin's thoughts drift to the faces of those he has encountered and those he has condemned. Each life taken is a thread woven into the complex tapestry of honor, duty, and survival. Yet, beneath the surface, a quiet questioning lingers. The cost of his relentless commitment, the loneliness that shadows every mission, and the faint, flickering hope for redemption. But there is no time for doubt. The city sleeps uneasily beneath the watchful stars, and the assassin must continue his vigil. With a final glance toward the moonlit rooftops, he disappears into the labyrinthine streets, a phantom bound by honor and haunted by the ghosts of his past. The night deepens, and the assassin vanishes into the labyrinth of Edo's streets, becoming one with the shadows that cloak the city. His footsteps are soundless on the wooden walkways and stone alleys, a ghost moving through a world unaware of his presence. Each breath is measured, each movement precise, the embodiment of a life lived in silence and discipline. As he reaches the edge of the city, the first light of dawn begins to soften the darkness, painting the sky with hues of pale orange and soft lavender. The assassin pauses briefly on a wooden bridge overlooking a quiet canal, the water below reflecting the awakening sky. In this fleeting moment of stillness, his thoughts turn inward to the burden of the path he has chosen, the lives taken, in shadow, and the loneliness that accompanies his duty that he knows there is no turning back. The assassin's life is a delicate balance between honor and survival, shadow and light. With a final, steadying breath, he turns away from the rising sun and disappears into the waking city, ready to face another day where death walks quietly. Alongside life, the sun crept slowly over the rooftops of Edo, casting a warm glow that seemed at odds with the cold, calculated life of the assassin. In the quiet aftermath of his mission, he lingered at the edge of the city, the soft light, painting his silhouette against the wooden bridge where he paused to reflect. The distant sounds of merchants setting up their stalls and children playing reached his ears, a stark reminder of the world he had chosen to observe from the shadows. Every breath he took was measured, each moment a fragile balance between the weight of his past actions and the necessity of survival. The path he walked was lonely, marked by silent sacrifices and unspoken honor. Yet within this solitude, a small ember of resolve burned steadily, driving him forward through the endless cycle of night and day as the city awoke around him. The assassin folded his cloak tighter against the morning chill and disappeared once more into the bustling streets of Edo, a ghost in a living world, unseen, unheard, but always watching. The fading light of dawn cast long shadows across Edo's winding streets as the assassin melded seamlessly into the city's morning bustle. Though the world around him awoke with the sounds of merchants and children, he remained a silent observer, an unseen thread woven into the fabric of everyday life. His footsteps, light and purposeful, guided him toward a hidden path known only to those who, like him, walked the razor's edge between life and death. As he navigated the narrow alleys, his thoughts drifted to the fragile nature of honor in a world ruled by power and fear. Each mission was a thread in the tapestry of his existence, a testament to discipline and sacrifice. Yet beneath the calm exterior, the assassin wrestled with the solitude that defined his path, the isolation of a man who must remain unseen, unheard, and untouched. Reaching a secluded courtyard, he paused briefly to catch his breath. The scent of cherry blossoms lingered faintly in the air, a fleeting reminder of beauty amid the shadows. For a moment, he allowed himself to reflect on the price of his chosen life. The endless cycles of violence, the burden of secrecy, and the ever-present specter of mortality. With a final, measured breath, the assassin steeled himself and vanished once more into the maze of Edo's streets, ready to embrace the darkness and the duties it demanded. The assassin's world is one painted in shades of shadow and silence, where every breath carries the weight of unspoken truths. Beneath the stoic exterior lies a mind ceaselessly turning over questions of honor, duty, and the price of survival. To live as a killer in Edo's turbulent times is to embrace solitude, not as punishment, but as necessity that he reflects on the code that governs his life. Bushido. Honor, loyalty, and discipline are not mere words but the pillars upon which his existence rests. Yet, the path of the assassin is fraught with contradictions. To uphold honor, he must commit acts that defy it. To protect loyalty, he must sometimes betray his own desires. To survive, he must live apart from the world he serves in the quiet hours. He wrestles with these paradoxes. The faces of those he has taken haunt his thoughts, not as enemies, but as echoes of a life interrupted. Each death is a shadow cast on his soul, a reminder that his skill is both a gift and a curse. Despite the burden, there is purpose. His blade strikes not for personal gain, but to restore balance in a fractured society. In a world ruled by corruption and fear, he is both judge and executioner, wielding justice in silence. This duality shapes him, a man divided between light and dark, action and contemplation. His solitude is profound, yet it offers clarity. In the absence of distraction, he finds focus. In the silence, resolve. The assassin understands that his path is lonely, perhaps endless. Yet he walks it willingly, bound by code and conviction. For in the shadows, he has found his truth. The assassin often finds himself wrestling with the weight of his existence long after the sun has set and the city of Edo has succumbed to sleep. His mind becomes a battleground where loyalty clashes with doubt, and the sharp edges of duty cut through the fragile fabric of his soul. Each life taken, though justified by code, leaves an indelible mark, an echo that refuses to fade. He contemplates the nature of honor, not as a fleeting ideal, but as a relentless pursuit, sometimes cruel and unforgiving. In a world where power corrupts and deception weaves its tangled web, his sword becomes both a tool of justice and a symbol of isolation. To live by the blade is to live apart, a shadow on the periphery of human connection. Yet, beneath this hardened exterior lies a yearning, a quiet hope for redemption, for a moment of peace beyond the endless cycle of violence. Memories of simpler times, of laughter and light, flicker like distant stars against the darkness of his reality. They are fragile beacons, reminders that beneath the armor of the assassin beats a heart that still seeks meaning. His discipline remains unwavering. Meditation and ritual are his refuge, grounding him amid the storm. The code of Bushido guides him, yet he knows it is not infallible. It bends and shifts like the wind through bamboo groves. He adapts, survives, endures. The assassin is a man, divided between duty and desire, shadow and light, life and death. In embracing this paradox, he finds his strength. The path is solitary and steep, but it is his to walk, step by silent step. The assassin's nights are often spent in quiet solitude, far from the noise of the waking world. In the stillness, his thoughts unravel the tangled threads of his existence. Questions of morality, loyalty, and the price paid for every silent kill. He is acutely aware that the line between justice and murder is thin, blurred by circumstance and necessity. He recalls the faces of those he has sent to the afterlife, some cruel tyrants, others merely pawns caught in the currents of power. Each one haunts him differently, a mosaic of memories that shape his conscience. Yet, despite the shadows that linger, he finds solace in the belief that his actions serve a greater good. The assassin's philosophy is rooted in balance. Life and death, light and dark, honor and dishonor. These dualities coexist within him. To exist is to navigate these opposing forces, to accept the burden of his role without succumbing to despair. His training and discipline are his anchors. Through meditation and ritual, he cultivates mental clarity and emotional resilience. The physical demands of his profession are matched only by the rigor of his inner work. Still, he is human. The solitude weighs heavily, and moments of vulnerability surface like cracks in the armor. He longs for connection, but knows that attachment is a luxury that could endanger not only himself, but those he might care for. In the end, the assassin embraces his solitude not as punishment, but as a necessary sacrifice, a testament to the life he has chosen. He walks the shadowed path with quiet resolve, carrying both the weight of his past and the hope for a future where his blades may rest. days, and nights blur into one another. The assassin's life a cycle of preparation, action, and reflection. The solitude he bears is both shield and prison, a space where his mind roams freely but also traps him in the echo of his own thoughts. He contemplates the paradox of his existence, a man who lives to take life, yet cherishes the fragile breath of peace that follows the quiet moments. He recalls the lessons passed down through generations, the importance of balance, humility, and acceptance. The Bushido Code is his compass, but it is not without its contradictions. It demands unwavering loyalty to a cause yet acknowledges the impermanence of life. It honors strength but teaches compassion. It calls for courage yet warns of hubris. He wonders if there is redemption for those who walk his path. Is it found in the silent justice delivered by his hand? Or does it lie beyond the reach of the living, in a realm where the burdens of the past dissolve like mist? The assassin's heart holds a secret, a flicker of longing for something beyond the shadows. He dreams of a life unmarked by blood, where laughter replaces silence and companionship softens the edge of solitude. Yet he knows such dreams are fragile, easily shattered by the harsh reality he inhabits. Still, he carries on. His purpose, though shrouded in darkness, is clear: to protect, to serve, to balance the scales of a world rife with injustice. In embracing his loneliness, he finds a strange kind of peace, a quiet strength born not of victory, but of endurance. Assassin's nights are often silent, save for the soft rustle of fabric as he moves through his quarters. In these quiet hours, he confronts the ghosts that linger just beyond the edge of consciousness, the faces of those lost, the choices made in shadow, and the endless question of what it means to live with honor in a world steeped in violence. He understands that his role is one of paradoxes. He is both protector and destroyer, bound by a code that demands purity of spirit even as his hands are stained with blood. This duality weighs heavily on him, a constant reminder that the path he walks is one few can comprehend. Sometimes, he allows himself a moment of vulnerability, a fleeting thought of connection beyond the cold walls of duty. Memories of laughter, of kindness, of fleeting warmth flicker through his mind like distant stars, bright, yet unreachable. Yet, these moments are rare and precious. The assassin knows that attachment can be a weakness, a crack in the armor that might expose him to ruin. So he buries his longing deep, wrapping it in layers of discipline and resolve. His sword is an extension of his will, his meditation a refuge from the storm within. Through ritual and repetition, he maintains the delicate balance between the man he once was and the shadow he has become. In this solitude, he finds not despair but strength, a fierce determination to continue his silent vigil, to wield his blades in service of a greater justice, and to endure the loneliness that his chosen path demands. The assassin's thoughts drift like the faint scent of incense lingering in his quiet room. Each mission, each silent strike, weaves itself into the tapestry of his life. Threads of honor, regret, and unwavering discipline intertwined in a complex pattern only he fully understands. The weight of countless lives taken presses upon his soul, yet he carries it with a stoic grace, knowing that every act is a necessary piece in the fragile balance of the world he serves. He reflects on the paradox of his existence: to kill in the name of justice, yet live apart from the world he protects. Relationships are fleeting shadows, trust a dangerous luxury. The solitude he endures is both shield and cage, a sanctuary for his thoughts and a reminder of the price paid for his role, In moments of rare vulnerability, he questions the meaning of his path. Is redemption possible for one who thrives in the shadows? Can honor exist alongside the necessity of death? These questions linger unanswered, haunting the edges of his mind like distant echoes. Yet, through meditation and ritual, he grounds himself. The Code of Bushido offers a framework, strength tempered by compassion, loyalty balanced with humility. It is a guide through the moral ambiguity that defines his life. Though the path is lonely and fraught with peril, the assassin embraces it fully. For in the quiet darkness, amid the flickering candlelight and whispered prayers, he finds a semblance of peace, a fragile yet unbreakable resolve to continue the endless journey between light and shadow. The assassin's life is a delicate balance between the ruthless demands of his profession and the quiet yearnings of his soul. In the dim solitude of his quarters, he contemplates the paradox of his existence, wielding death with precision, yet seeking a semblance of peace within. Each strike is calculated, each mission a testament to his unwavering discipline, yet beneath the surface lies a man burdened by the ghosts of his past. He recalls the teachings of his master. To walk the path of the assassin is to embrace both light and shadow, strength and vulnerability. Honor is not simply a code, but a way of life, demanding sacrifice beyond the physical. It requires the suppression of personal desires for the greater good, an eternal vigilance against the temptations of the heart. Yet, in fleeting moments, the assassin allows himself to dream, to imagine a life untouched by bloodshed, where laughter replaces silence and companionship soothes the ache of loneliness. These reveries are fragile, easily shattered by the harsh reality of his duties. Meditation grounds him, a ritual that sharpens the mind and steadies the spirit. The flame of his resolve burns bright against the encroaching darkness, fueled by a belief that his actions, however grim, serve a higher purpose. The assassin understands the price of his path. It is a life of solitude, sacrifice, and ceaseless conflict. Yet, he embraces it with quiet resolve, a shadow moving ever forward through the dawn and dusk of Edo. The assassin's days blend into an unbroken sequence of shadows and silence, each moment steeped in the discipline that defines his existence. Alone in his modest quarters, he contemplates the paradox of his role, a guardian who thrives in the darkness, a bringer of death who seeks to preserve life's fragile balance. His heart bears the scars of countless missions, each one a testament to the sacrifices demanded by his path, memories of faces long gone, some foes, others victims, surface unbidden, weaving a tapestry of loss and duty. These echoes of the past are both burden and compass, guiding his actions even as they remind him of the price paid for every life taken. The assassin understands that his path is lonely, his soul tempered by solitude and resolve that he reflects on the code of Bushido that shapes his every move. Honor, loyalty, and self-control are not mere ideals, but lifelines, anchoring him amid the chaos. Yet, he knows that living by this code requires a constant balancing act, a dance between mercy and ruthlessness, between silence and action. Though his existence is marked by sacrifice, the assassin finds moments of clarity and purpose. Meditation and ritual offer refuge, grounding him in a reality where every decision carries weight and consequence. In this quiet solitude, he renews his commitment to the path he has chosen, embracing the shadows as both protector and predator. As dawn approaches, the assassin rises, his resolve hardened by reflection. The city of Edo awakens, oblivious to the silent guardian who watches from the shadows. ready to once again walk the line between life and death. The assassin's life, steeped in silence and shadow, carries with it a profound solitude that few can comprehend. As the pale light of dawn seeps into his modest quarters, he contemplates the paradox of his existence, a life forged in secrecy and violence, yet guided by an unwavering code of honor. Each mission, each silent strike, serves a greater purpose, yet leaves behind echoes of loneliness and unspoken pain that he reflects on the teachings of his ancestors, who spoke of balance between life and death, duty and desire, strength and compassion. The path he walks demands sacrifices not only of flesh, but of heart. To remain detached is both shield and prison, a necessity to endure the burden of his role. Yet, beneath the stoic exterior, a flicker of longing persists, a hope for a peace that seems forever just beyond reach. His daily rituals, meditation, weapon care, and quiet reflection anchor him amidst the chaos of his secret life. These moments of stillness offer clarity, allowing him to face the relentless demands of his vocation with renewed resolve. The assassin knows that his journey is solitary and unending, a shadow moving through the ever-changing light of Edo. Though the world sleeps unaware, he remains vigilant, an unseen guardian in the city's underbelly. The balance he maintains is fragile and the price is high. Yet, with quiet strength, he embraces his fate, stepping once more into the shadows where honor and survival intertwine. The assassin's day begins anew with quiet precision. As the city stirs to life, he prepares himself for the mission ahead, not with haste or recklessness, but with a meticulous attention to detail that reflects years of training and experience. The morning air is crisp, carrying the mingled scents of wood smoke and fresh dew, while the distant murmur of merchants and townsfolk rising to their daily routines fills the streets. That in the seclusion of his quarters, he checks his weapons carefully. His katana gleams under the soft light, the blade sharpened to a razor's edge, balanced perfectly in his grip. Nearby, his short tanto and concealed darts lie ready, silent instruments of his deadly craft. Each tool is treated with reverence, cleaned and maintained with ritualistic care. It is both respect for the weapon and preparation for the life or death tasks that await. Beyond the weapons, he studies the details of his target, the habits, routes, and vulnerabilities of a corrupt magistrate whose tyranny has sown fear in the hearts of Edo's commoners. Maps and notes lie spread across a low wooden table, alongside sketches of the man's face and movements. Every piece of information is a thread in the intricate web of planning necessary for success. The assassin dresses in muted robes, designed to blend with the shadows of the city's narrow streets. The weight of armor is minimal, favoring stealth and agility over brute force. A simple mask conceals his identity, a barrier between himself and the world he must move through unnoticed. Before stepping into the waking city, he pauses briefly to center himself. A few moments of meditation calm his mind, sharpening focus and resolve. The ritual is familiar, a silent vow to uphold the code that governs his life and to carry out justice without hesitation. With steady breath and measured steps, he disappears into the labyrinth of Edo's streets, the day's mission unfolding. Like the quiet turning of a blade in the dark, the assassin moves through Edo's awakening streets with practiced ease, every step measured and deliberate. The city is alive with the chatter of vendors arranging their stalls and the distant clatter of wooden carts on cobblestone paths. Yet, he is a shadow among the bustling crowd, unseen, unheard, and blending effortlessly with the flow of daily life. His target is a corrupt magistrate, known for exploiting the common folk and crushing dissent with ruthless efficiency. To approach such a man requires not only skill but patience and subtlety. The assassin's keen eyes scan the streets, noting the positions of guards and the timing of patrols, his mind weaving a silent map of opportunity and risk. He slips through narrow alleys, avoiding the main thoroughfares where his presence would draw notice. The muted folds of his dark robes obscure his form, and a simple mask shields his features, allowing him to move without recognition. Every movement is fluid, a dance practiced countless times in the shadowed confines of training halls. As he nears the magistrate's residence, the assassin slows, adopting the posture of a common traveler, head lowered slightly, hands tucked beneath his sleeves. His senses sharpen, attuned to the sounds and smells of the neighborhood. The faint aroma of incense, the murmured conversations behind paper doors, the subtle shifts in light and shadow at a moment of stillness, a breath held. And then the assassin begins his silent infiltration, slipping through an unguarded gate and into the heart of the man's domain. The city beyond continues unaware, while in the quiet depths of the magistrate's estate, a deadly presence moves with unwavering purpose. The assassin's feet barely make a sound as he slips through the shadows of the magistrate's estate. The moonlight filtering through paper screens casts faint patterns on the polished wooden floors, guiding his path with a ghostly light. Every sense is heightened. He listens for the slightest shift in breath, the softest movement of a guard's footstep, the distant tick of a clock marking the passing seconds. His mind is a calm tempest, focused entirely on the task at hand. The magistrate's chambers lie deeper within the sprawling complex, a fortress of paper and wood guarded by loyal retainers unaware of the danger creeping ever closer. The assassin moves like a whisper, blending into the darkness, a shadow among shadows. Reaching the door, he pauses briefly to steady his breath, fingertips tracing the cool surface of the wooden frame. The final moments stretch taut with tension. Then, with practiced precision, he draws his tanto, the short blade gleaming faintly. A swift, silent strike is all that is needed. In the stillness, the magistrate's reign of fear comes to an abrupt end, an act not of cruelty, but of justice served in the silent balance of Edo's underworld. The assassin does not linger. His duty fulfilled, he slips away as quietly as he came, melting into the night's embrace. Outside, the city breathes on, unaware that beneath its surface, a new order has begun to take shape, carved by the blade of a lone warrior. The assassin's departure from the magistrate's estate is as silent and deliberate as his entrance. He retraces his steps through the labyrinth of dim corridors and shadowed gardens, every movement fluid and precise to avoid detection. The weight of the completed mission settles over him, not with triumph, but with the solemn acceptance of duty fulfilled. Outside, the city remains oblivious to the ripple caused by the fall of one of its most feared figures. Lanterns sway gently in the evening breeze, casting soft pools of light on the narrow streets where life continues uninterrupted. The assassin blends seamlessly back into the fabric of Edo, a ghost fading into the night. Yet, even as he disappears into the city's shadows, his mind begins to turn toward the consequences. The power vacuum left by the magistrate's death may invite chaos, new rivals vying for control, and innocent lives caught in the crossfire. The assassin knows that his role is but a single thread in a vast, tangled web of politics and power that he contemplates the precarious balance he helps maintain, a balance kept by his blade, but forever at risk of unraveling. In this delicate dance, The assassin embraces his solitude and resolve, prepared to continue his silent vigil as both protector and harbinger in the ever-shifting shadows of Edo. Asterisk, the assassin's footsteps dissolve into the quiet night as he melts away from the magistrate's estate, his presence leaving no trace but the fading tension in the air. With each step, he becomes less a man and more a shadow, an invisible force slipping through the veins of Edo's labyrinthine streets. The weight of the mission lingers, but his expression remains stoic, eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of pursuit. That he moves with the practiced grace of one who knows every twist and turn of the city, using the night's concealment to his advantage. Passing beneath flickering lanterns and over wooden bridges, he is both part of the city and apart from it, forever walking the fine line between life and death, justice and vengeance. Yet even as he fades into the urban tapestry, his mind races with the implications. The magistrate's death may restore hope to the oppressed, but power rarely lies dormant for long. Rival factions will stir, and new threats will emerge from the shadows. The assassin understands that his work is never truly done. His vigilance must remain unyielding. That in this eternal dance of light and darkness, he finds a strange solace. Though his path is solitary, his purpose is clear. For as long as injustice reigns, the assassin will be there, an unseen guardian, a shadowed hand delivering silent judgment. The assassin's silhouette melted into the labyrinthine alleys of Edo, becoming indistinguishable from the shadows that clung to the city's wooden structures. Every muscle remained taut, every sense alert to the faintest disturbance. A misplaced footstep, a hushed whisper, the glint of steel in moonlight. In the delicate balance between life and death, one misstep could be fatal. As he navigated back through the city, the assassin's thoughts drifted briefly to the consequences his actions might bring. The magistrate's absence would unsettle the delicate political equilibrium, stirring unrest and ambition among those hungry for power. Yet, he had no illusions that peace would last long. The city was a living organism, constantly shifting and evolving, and his role was to maintain order through calculated intervention. Despite the cold efficiency of his craft, a part of him acknowledged the human cost hidden beneath the veneer of honor and duty. Innocence might suffer in the wake of upheaval, and the assassin carried that burden silently. Still, the code he lived by left no room for hesitation. Emerging from the winding alleys, he paused for a moment beneath a flickering lantern, the soft glow illuminating the sharp lines of his masked face. With a deep, steadying breath, he vanished. Once again into the night, a ghost returning to the shadows, ever watchful, ever ready. Asterisk, the assassin moved swiftly, yet silently through the winding, lantern-lit streets of Edo, his form a mere shadow among shadows. Each step was calculated, his senses acutely attuned to every sound, every flicker of movement. The city's pulse quickened with the approach of dawn, but he remained a ghost within the growing light, his mission behind him, yet the weight of its consequences pressing upon his mind. The magistrate's death would unsettle the fragile balance of power, creating ripples that might swell into waves of conflict. The assassin understood that his task was never truly complete. Each strike was but a single note in an endless symphony of political intrigue and silent warfare. He was both instrument and conductor, guiding the delicate dance from the shadows. Yet amidst the cold pragmatism, a quiet resolve burned within him, a commitment to justice as defined by a personal code, one that demanded sacrifice and solitude. His life was a constant negotiation between duty and desire, silence and action, death and survival. Pausing briefly beneath the soft glow of a paper lantern, he allowed himself a moment to breathe, to gather strength for the challenges ahead. The city around him was awakening, oblivious to the silent guardian weaving through its streets. With a final glance toward the horizon where night yielded to day, the assassin melted back into the labyrinth, ready to continue his vigil in the shadows. The morning light filtered gently through the paper shoji screens, casting soft, geometric patterns across the assassin's austere room. The city of Edo was fully awake now, its bustling streets filled with merchants, craftsmen, and townsfolk going about their daily lives. Unaware of the shadow that had passed through the night, the assassin sat quietly, his posture calm yet alert. As he reflected on the night's events, the mission had been executed flawlessly, yet the weight of it settled heavily upon him. Death was his tool, but also his burden, a constant companion in the solitude of his existence. That he understood that the fall of the magistrate would ripple through Edo's delicate social fabric. Power struggles would ensue, and innocent lives might be caught in the ensuing turmoil. These were the unseen costs of his duty, sacrifices that weighed on his conscience despite the justification of justice. Yet, the assassin found a strange peace in the knowledge that his actions served a higher purpose. In a world rife with corruption and fear, his blade was a silent arbiter, cutting away injustice in the shadows. The code of Bushido that guided him was both a shield and a sword, demanding discipline, honor, and unwavering resolve. That as he prepared to leave his quarters, the assassin took a moment for a ritual, a bow to the ancestors, a prayer for guidance, and a meditation to center his mind. These acts connected him to a lineage of warriors who had walked the same path, bearing the same burdens. With the day unfolding outside, the assassin vanished once more into the streets of Edo, ready to face whatever new challenges awaited. His life was one of endless motion and quiet sacrifice, a solitary journey through light and shadow. The assassin sat motionless in the dim tranquility of his chamber, the soft morning light gently brushing the wooden floorboards. His mind replayed the night's mission, the stealth, the precision, the final swift strike that ended the magistrate's reign of terror. Yet beneath the calm exterior lay a turbulent sea of thoughts and emotions, the burden of taking a life mingling with the conviction that justice had been served. He knew well the precariousness of the balance he maintained. The death of one corrupt man might spark chaos, unrest, and new power struggles within Edo's intricate political web. Innocent lives could be caught in the crossfire, and the assassin bore the silent weight of that knowledge. Despite this, his dedication to the Bushido code anchored him. Honor, loyalty, and discipline were not mere ideals, but the compass guiding his path through darkness. He found solace in ritual, the cleansing of his blade, the quiet meditation, the silent prayers to ancestors who had walked this path before him. Outside, the city stirred, vibrant and oblivious to the shadows lurking beneath its surface. The assassin rose, steeling himself for the days to come. His mission was far from over. The undercurrents of power would continue to shift, and he would be there, watching, waiting, ready to act when justice called again to end the solitude of his existence. He found a purpose deeper than any fleeting victory, a commitment to the delicate balance between light and shadow that defined his world. In the quiet aftermath, the assassin allowed himself a rare moment of vulnerability. Alone in his sparse quarters, the weight of his deeds pressed heavily upon him, more so than the physical exertion of the night. He traced the edges of his katana's sheath with deliberate fingers, contemplating the duality of his existence, both protector and executioner. The faces of those he had eliminated flickered through his mind like shadowed phantoms. Some were tyrants who deserved their fate. Others were mere pieces in a larger game of power and influence. Yet, regardless of their deeds, each death was a finality that bore a profound silence. He carried their memory as both a burden and a reminder of his duty. The assassin's solitude was profound, but not empty. In the stillness, he sought clarity, meditating on the code that governed his life. Bushido was more than a set of rules. It was a philosophy that demanded discipline, honor, and above all, balance. It was this balance that sustained him through the moral ambiguities and the loneliness of his path. Outside, the city's pulse quickened with the start of a new day, unaware of the invisible hand that had altered its course. The assassin rose, steeling himself for what lay ahead. Though the mission was complete, the shadows he navigated were ever shifting, and his vigil was far from over. With a final, resolute breath, he prepared to re-enter the world, silent, unseen, and unwavering. The assassin sat silently in his modest quarters, the soft morning light casting elongated shadows across the tatama mats. His gaze was fixed on the polished blade of his katana, a silent witness to countless acts of justice and sacrifice. The events of the previous night played repeatedly in his mind, a ritual of precision, stealth, and finality. Though his outward composure remained stoic, inwardly, he grappled with the heavy burden of his role that he knew that with each life taken, the fragile peace of Edo was momentarily restored, but at the cost of deeper ripples beneath the surface. The power vacuum left behind would surely invite new conflicts and challenges. Innocent lives, too, might be caught in the ensuing chaos, and these thoughts weighed heavily on his conscience. Yet, the code of Bushido remained his guiding light. Honor, discipline, loyalty, they were the pillars supporting his unwavering resolve. Rituals of meditation and prayer offered brief reprieves, moments to cleanse his spirit and steel his heart for the path ahead. Rising slowly, the assassin prepared to step back into the waking city, his expression a mask of calm determination. Though the mission had ended, the journey was far from over. In the quiet solitude of his life, he remained the silent guardian of Edo's balance, a shadow that moved between light and darkness with unyielding purpose. The assassin remained seated in the quiet room, the soft glow of morning casting a serene yet somber light upon his face. Though his mission had been carried out flawlessly, the echoes of that night reverberated in his mind like a distant drumbeat, steady, unyielding, impossible to ignore. Each life he ended was a thread in the complex tapestry of Edo's fragile peace. Yet the price of maintaining that balance was an ever-present weight upon his soul. He allowed himself a moment to acknowledge the duality of his existence. To the world, he was a shadow, an unseen force moving silently through the city's underbelly. But within, he was a man burdened by the knowledge that his actions, though necessary, brought pain and disruption. The faces of those he had dispatched flickered behind closed eyes, not as enemies, but as reminders of the sacrifice demanded by his path. The teachings of Bushido were his compass, guiding him through the moral ambiguity that defined his life. Honor was not simply about victory, but about restraint, discipline, and accepting the loneliness that came with his role. Loyalty extended beyond individuals to the greater good of the city he served, and discipline was the armor that shielded his heart from despair. Rising slowly, he prepared to leave his quarters, bowing quietly to the ancestors who had walked this path before him. The streets of Edo awaited, alive with the rhythms of a new day, unaware of the silent guardian who watched over them. His journey continued, a solitary vigil in the shadows, where light and darkness converged. Asterisk the assassin remained seated in the tranquil morning light, filtering softly through the shoji screens, the weight of the night's deeds pressing heavily on his mind. Though his exterior was calm and composed, within him stirred a tempest of conflicting emotions: duty, regret, resolve, and a quiet longing for peace that seemed forever out of reach. He contemplated the delicate balance his actions had affected. The magistrate's death, though necessary, was but a single stroke in the complex canvas of Edo's power struggles. New threats would inevitably rise, shadows would lengthen, and the cycle of violence and justice would continue unabated. He was both participant and observer in this endless dance, a solitary figure navigating the blurred line between light and darkness. His thoughts turned to the teachings of Bushido, the code that had shaped his life and guided his every action. Honor demanded sacrifice, discipline required restraint, and loyalty called for unwavering commitment, not just to his masters, but to the ideal of justice itself. These principles were his anchor amidst the moral ambiguity that defined his existence. In a rare moment of stillness, he closed his eyes and breathed deeply, seeking clarity and strength in meditation. The silent prayers he offered were for those lost, for the peace he sought but rarely found, and for the resolve to continue his path with unwavering purpose. Rising from his seated posture, the assassin prepared to step back into the waking world, a world oblivious to the quiet guardian who moved unseen among its shadows. His journey was far from over. The night's work was but one chapter in the ongoing story of duty, sacrifice, and honor. Asterisk the assassin remained seated in the quiet stillness of his chamber, the soft morning light casting gentle shadows across the tatami mats. His mind was heavy with the weight of the night's mission, the silent strike that had ended a life and shifted the balance of power in Edo. Though his face showed calm resolve, inside, a storm of emotions churned quietly. Duty fulfilled, justice served, but at a cost known only to him. He reflected on the fragility of the peace his blade maintained. The magistrate's death might bring hope to the oppressed, yet it could also ignite rivalries and unrest, stirring the delicate political currents beneath Edo's serene surface. He bore the burden of these possibilities alone, understanding that his role was to act as a guardian of balance, even if that meant living forever in the shadows. Drawing strength from the teachings of Bushido, he reminded himself of the honor in restraint, the discipline in solitude, and the loyalty not just to his master, but to the ideal of justice itself. Meditation and ritual were his refuge, moments where he could reconcile the man he was with the assassin he had become. Slowly, he rose, bowing respectfully to the ancestral scrolls hanging on the wall, acknowledging the lineage of warriors who had walked this path before him. The city outside bustled, unaware of the silent guardian's sacrifice and vigilance. With steady steps, he disappeared into the awakening streets of Edo, prepared to face the endless cycle of shadows and light that defined his existence. Asterisk the assassin sat alone in his sparse room, the morning light filtering softly through the delicate paper screens, casting a muted glow across the wooden floor. His eyes, though calm on the surface, carried the weight of 1,000 silent nights and countless untold stories. The memory of the magistrate's final moments lingered, swift, merciless, yet necessary. This was his burden, to execute justice. Where others dared not tread, that he knew the fragile balance of Edo's undercurrents depended on such shadows. Each death he delivered was a stone cast into a still pond, sending ripples that could either soothe or stir unrest. The assassin bore this weight alone, isolated by choice and duty. No triumph greeted his deeds, only the quiet satisfaction that the scales of justice had been momentarily balanced. The Bushido code, etched deep within his soul, offered both guidance and restraint. Honor was more than courage in battle. It was the discipline to accept loneliness and sacrifice for the greater good. Loyalty extended beyond the living, reaching ancestors who watched silently over his path. As the city awakened beyond his door, the assassin rose, his movements deliberate and measured. He bowed in silent homage to the lineage he upheld, then stepped into the bustling streets, becoming once again a whisper among the masses, forever a guardian in the shadows. The assassin remained seated in the quiet solitude of his modest room. The pale morning light filtering softly through the shoji screens and casting gentle patterns across the tatama mats. His gaze was fixed on the katana resting across his lap, a silent witness to the night's grim work. Though outwardly calm, his mind was a tempest of reflection, balancing the necessity of his mission against the heavy toll it exacted. He pondered the fragile peace his blade had restored, aware that it was but a fleeting reprieve. The magistrate's death would unsettle Edo's intricate political web, inviting new conflicts and power struggles beneath the surface calm. The assassin understood that his duty was never complete. He was a perpetual guardian, forever poised between shadow and light. The teachings of Bushido echoed in his thoughts. Honor and discipline, loyalty beyond the self, and courage tempered by restraint. These principles shaped his actions and provided a compass through the moral ambiguities of his life. Meditation and ritual were his refuge, offering clarity and fortitude amid the darkness. Rising slowly, he bowed deeply toward the ancestral scrolls adorning the wall, a gesture of respect to those who had walked this path before him. The city outside stirred with life, unaware of the silent sentinel who protected it from unseen threats. With measured steps, the assassin stepped into the dawning world, ready to continue his solitary vigil, a shadow among shadows in the ever-turning cycle of justice and sacrifice. The assassin sat quietly in his simple chamber, the morning light filtering gently through the paper screens and casting soft shadows on the tatami mats. His eyes, calm and focused, reflected the weight of his recent deed. The night's mission was complete, but the consequences rippled far beyond his immediate sight. The magistrate's death would unsettle the delicate balance of Edo's power, sparking unrest and shifting loyalties in unseen ways. He understood the solitude his path demanded. Few could grasp the burden of living between light and shadow, wielding a blade that both protected and destroyed. His commitment to Bushido grounded him. Discipline, honor, and loyalty were the pillars that sustained him through the moral complexities of his role. These principles offered a framework, a means to endure the loneliness and carry out his duty without faltering. Rising slowly, the assassin performed a silent ritual, bowing to the ancestral scrolls that lined the walls, a humble homage to those who had walked this path before him. He breathed deeply, centering himself, before stepping out into the awakening city. The streets of Edo buzzed with life, oblivious to the quiet guardian who moved unseen among them. His journey was far from over. The shadows awaited, as did the endless cycle of justice and sacrifice he had sworn to uphold. As the city of Edo hummed to life under the morning sun, the assassin stepped cautiously through narrow streets, blending seamlessly into the throng of merchants, artisans, and common folk. His mission from the previous night had shifted the currents of power, but his vigilance remained unbroken. Every shadow, Every whispered conversation, every subtle shift in the marketplace carried potential threats and secrets waiting to be uncovered. His role extended beyond mere execution. He was also a watcher, an informer, and a guardian of the fragile balance that kept the city from unraveling into chaos. The assassin's eyes scanned faces, read body language, and caught murmurs that others overlooked. In this web of intrigue, knowledge was as vital as the sharpness of his blade. Navigating through a bustling tea house, he paused briefly, observing a gathering of merchants discussing a rumored rebellion in the outskirts. Such news could signal unrest or an opportunity for the powerful to tighten their grip. The assassin stored this information carefully, knowing that understanding the subtle politics was key to his continued survival and effectiveness. Despite the risks, he moved with the confidence of one accustomed to danger. The city was his domain, as much as any lord's castle, and its secrets were his to protect or exploit. As day turned to dusk, the assassin's presence faded once more into the shadows, ever watchful, ever ready. The assassin sat quietly in his chamber as morning light filtered softly through the paper shoji screens, casting delicate shadows on the tatama mats. The weight of his recent mission pressed heavily on his mind, a silent burden borne alone. Though his actions had brought justice to the corrupt magistrate, the assassin understood the fragile balance of Edo's power dynamics was now even more precarious. Rival factions would soon move to fill the void, and the consequences of his blade's work would ripple far beyond his sight. His calm exterior masked a storm of conflicting emotions: duty, resolve, regret, and the loneliness that came with a life lived in shadows. The teachings of Bushido grounded him: honor, discipline, loyalty, and acceptance of the sacrifices demanded by his role. These principles shaped not only his actions, but the very core of his being. In the quiet solitude, the assassin allowed himself a moment of reflection and silent prayer, honoring those who had walked the path before him and seeking strength for the challenges ahead. Rising with measured grace, he bowed to ancestral scrolls lining the wall, acknowledging the weight of tradition and the burden of duty he carried. As Edo awakened outside, unaware of the silent guardian moving among them, the assassin disappeared into the labyrinthine streets, ever watchful, ever vigilant, a shadow in the endless dance between light and darkness. As the city of Edo stirred with the first light of dawn, the assassin melted into the bustling streets, becoming one with the crowd. His dark robes and simple mask allowed him to pass unnoticed among merchants, peasants, and samurai alike. Yet his eyes remained vigilant, scanning every face and listening for whispers that might hint at unrest or danger. Though his recent mission had silenced one corrupt magistrate, the political landscape of Edo was ever shifting, and threats could emerge from unexpected corners. The assassin knew his role was not merely to strike from the shadows, but to anticipate the tides of power, gathering intelligence as keenly as he wielded his blade. Passing through a crowded market, he paused briefly to overhear a conversation about rising tensions among rival clans. Such news was vital. Knowing when and where conflict might erupt allowed him to act preemptively, preserving the fragile peace that many took for granted. His movements were fluid and deliberate, blending into the vibrant life of the city while maintaining the solitude required by his secretive existence. The assassin was a guardian unseen, a silent force maintaining balance in a world where shadows often held more power than light. As dusk approached, he retreated to a hidden refuge, preparing for the next phase of his watch, a cycle of vigilance and swift action that defined his life in Edo. the assassin navigated the bustling streets of Edo with practiced ease, his presence masked beneath the folds of his dark robes and the anonymity of a simple cloth covering his face. The marketplace was alive with vibrant colors, the calls of merchants hawking their goods, and the mingled scents of fresh fish, spices, and sweet pastries. Yet amid this lively tapestry, the assassin's senses were honed sharply, each sound and movement analyzed for potential threats or opportunities. That he moved deliberately toward a quiet tea house tucked away in a narrow alley, a known gathering place for local informants and those who trafficked in secrets. Here, amidst the clink of teacups and hushed conversations, he sought knowledge, intelligence that could tip the scales in the ever-shifting game of Edo's political undercurrents. The assassin's reputation was whispered in the shadows, a name feared and respected by many. His role went beyond that of a mere killer. He was a protector of balance, ensuring that power did not fall into the wrong hands, and that justice, however harsh, was served. After gathering vital information and carefully assessing the shifting alliances, he slipped away as quietly as he had arrived. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the city, signaling the return of night, and with it, the assassin's domain. The assassin slipped through Edo's labyrinthine alleys. As twilight deepened into night, the city's vibrant colors fading into shades of gray and black. His movements were fluid and silent, practiced over years of training, blending effortlessly with the shadows cast by flickering paper lanterns and the occasional glow from a distant fire. The bustling energy of the day had given way to a quieter, more dangerous world, one where whispers carried more weight than shouts, and secrets could mean survival or death. He made his way to a secluded meeting place. Hidden beneath the eaves of an old shrine, the assassin prepared himself for a delicate exchange of information. In this shadowy world, alliances were fragile and trust was scarce. The men who gathered here were couriers, spies, and informants, each carrying pieces of a puzzle that only the assassin could assemble. Tonight's meeting was crucial, a chance to uncover plots threatening the fragile peace he fought to protect. The air was thick with tension as the group exchanged coded messages and subtle gestures, their voices barely audible over the rustling leaves. The assassin listened carefully, piecing together hints of rebellion, betrayal, and impending danger. Every fragment of knowledge was a thread in the intricate tapestry of Edo's underworld. With the intelligence secured, the assassin vanished, once again into the night, ready to act swiftly should the delicate balance tip toward chaos. His was a life lived between light and shadow, duty and solitude. Forever guarding the city, he served with silent vigilance. The assassin moved like a shadow through the narrowing alleys of Edo, the deepening dusk swallowing the city's colors and sounds into muted whispers. His dark robes blended seamlessly with the night, and the soft flicker of lanterns cast errant glimmers on his masked face, barely revealing the intense focus in his eyes. Each step was measured, each breath controlled, as he navigated the labyrinth of streets known only to those who belonged to the shadows. His destination was a secluded tea house, a discreet hub where whispers of rebellion, treachery, and hidden plots passed between trusted informants. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension. Muted voices exchanged careful words, and glances darted furtively. The assassin took his place among the shadows, ears attuned to every syllable, piecing together fragments of intelligence that could spell doom or salvation for Edo, the city's delicate political web depended on such information. The unseen battles fought not with blades, but with secrets and strategies. The assassin's role was to ensure the balance was maintained, acting swiftly when darkness threatened to overtake the fragile order. With a final glance around the dim room, he slipped away into the night, carrying the weight of knowledge and the burden of imminent decisions. The cycle of vigilance and action continued, the assassin forever bound to his silent oath. The assassin moved silently through Edo's twisting streets as night deepened, the city's noises fading into distant murmurs. Cloaked in shadow, he was a ghost amidst the lantern-lit alleys, his every movement deliberate and precise. The weight of the information he had gathered at the tea house pressed on his mind, a tangled web of betrayals, conspiracies, and impending upheavals threatening the fragile peace he was sworn to protect. He slipped into a hidden courtyard behind a humble tea shop, where a trusted ally awaited. The exchange was swift and silent. Coded words passed between them, confirming suspicions and outlining emerging threats. This was the unseen battlefield where the assassin fought. Far from the sword's edge, but equally vital, the first hints of dawn tinted the sky. He retreated further into the shadows, blending with the city's waking rhythms. His role was endless: to watch, to wait, and to act when justice demanded. The path he walked was lonely, marked by sacrifice and silence. Yet it was a path he embraced with unwavering resolve. The assassin glided silently through Edo's shadowed alleys as the night deepened, his dark robes merging with the darkness like a wraith. Every step was purposeful and quiet, a practiced dance perfected through years of training and survival. The city's usual cacophony had faded into a low murmur, the flicker of lanterns casting restless shadows on the wooden walls. His mind was sharp and alert, replaying the fragments of information gathered from the tea house meeting. The whispers of rebellion and betrayal were not just idle rumors. They were threads of a looming storm threatening to unravel the fragile peace that he was sworn to maintain. He knew that the coming days would test not only his skill with the blade, but also his ability to navigate the complex web of loyalties and deceit. Pausing briefly beneath a ginkgo tree, he took a deep breath, steadying himself for the challenges ahead. The quiet solitude of the night was his only companion, a stark contrast to the chaos that simmered beneath Edo's serene surface. Yet, within this darkness, he found clarity, a resolve forged by duty and honor. With a final glance at the moonlit sky, the assassin vanished deeper into the maze of streets, ready to face whatever shadows awaited. His was a life lived between light and darkness, a silent sentinel guarding a city unaware of the dangers lurking just beyond its doorstep. The assassin moved like a shadow through the winding alleys of Edo, his dark robes blending seamlessly with the night. The city's vibrant colors had faded to muted tones under the moonlight, and the soft flicker of paper lanterns cast dancing shadows on wooden walls. Every step he took was deliberate and silent, a practiced art honed by years of training. His mind raced as he recalled the whispered conversations from the tea house, the rumors of rebellion, the shifting alliances, the threats lurking beneath the surface of Edo's delicate peace. This information was a weapon as sharp as his katana, and he knew the importance of acting with both speed and discretion. Pausing briefly in a secluded courtyard, he exchanged a knowing glance with a trusted informant, a brief but critical connection in the shadowy network that kept Edo's secrets. The assassin absorbed every detail shared, understanding that the balance of power hung by a thread, and that his vigilance was crucial. As the first light of dawn began to bleed into the sky, he melted back into the labyrinth of streets, his figure disappearing into the growing light. The city awoke, unaware of the silent guardian who moved unseen among its people, forever bound to the shadows in his quest for justice. With dawn breaking over Edo, the assassin retreated from the shadows of the night into the anonymity of the bustling city streets. His mission was far from over. The information gathered in the previous hours weighed heavily on his mind. The rumors of rebellion and shifting loyalties foretold a storm brewing beneath the city's calm surface, and he knew he had to act swiftly. To prevent chaos, navigating through crowded markets and narrow alleys, the assassin sought out a trusted contact, a former samurai turned informant who had eyes and ears in every corner of Edo. Their meeting was brief but crucial, exchanging whispered warnings and urgent news. Every piece of intelligence was a thread in the delicate tapestry of Edo's political intrigue. The assassin's mind raced, piecing together clues and strategizing his next moves. His role was not only to strike from the shadows, but to anticipate threats, dismantle plots, and protect the fragile order. Each day demanded vigilance, patience, and unwavering commitment. As the sun climbed higher, the assassin melted back into the crowd, his presence unnoticed but vital. His life was a continuous balance between light and darkness, action and restraint, a solitary guardian dedicated to preserving justice in a city teetering on the edge. Asterisk as the day unfolded in Edo, the assassin remained vigilant, moving with quiet purpose through the city's winding streets. Though the sun shone brightly, casting long shadows across wooden rooftops, the assassin's world was defined by the subtle tensions beneath the surface, whispers of conspiracy, hidden alliances, and the ever-present threat of upheaval. His steps led him to a secluded dojo on the outskirts of the city, a place where he honed not only his deadly skills, but also his mind and spirit. Here, under the watchful eye of a revered master, the assassin practiced the art of precision and control. Every strike, every movement was deliberate, a meditation on discipline and balance. In this sanctuary, he found brief respite from the burdens of his secret life. Yet even as he trained, his thoughts remained tethered to the precarious peace of Edo. The information he had gathered hinted at deeper unrest, and he knew that moments of calm were fleeting. The assassin's dual existence, as both warrior and watcher, demanded constant readiness. The path ahead was uncertain, fraught with danger and moral complexity, but he was resolute. With each breath and every swing of the blade, he prepared for the trials to come, steadfast in his silent vow to protect the city from the shadows. The assassin emerged from the dojo as twilight cast long shadows across Edo streets. The peaceful discipline of the afternoon's training gave way to the darker rhythms of his true work. His mind sharpened by practice, he was ready to face the hidden dangers that stirred beneath the city's surface. Tonight, whispers of unrest had reached a critical point. Reports of secret meetings and unexpected alliances hinted at a conspiracy that threatened to engulf the city in chaos. The assassin's role was to intercept these threats before they could materialize, striking swiftly and silently to maintain the fragile balance. Moving through the labyrinth of narrow lanes, he navigated the city's underbelly with practiced ease. His eyes, keen and alert, missed nothing. The flicker of a coded signal, the brush of a secret message, the subtle tension in a passerby's gait. He was both hunter and guardian, moving invisibly yet decisively in the dark corners of Edo, where loyalty was tested and betrayal lurked. The assassin's blade was the last word. His commitment to Bushido fueled his resolve, driving him to uphold justice in a world fraught with danger and deception. As night deepened, the assassin prepared to act, knowing that each moment could alter the fate of the city. His path was one of shadows and silence, but his purpose was clear: to protect Edo at any cost. The assassin paused in the shadow of a crumbling stone wall, the cool night air filling his lungs as he listened intently to the faint murmur of voices nearby. Through a narrow gap between wooden buildings, he spotted a clandestine gathering. Men cloaked in dark robes huddled together, exchanging whispered plans that could ignite rebellion. The tension in the air was palpable, a fragile thread holding back chaos. Drawing his katana with practiced grace, the assassin's resolve hardened. His mission was clear: prevent the spark from igniting a fire that could consume the city. But this was not a task of brute force alone. It required precision, timing, and an unyielding commitment to the delicate balance he guarded. He moved silently, a shadow among shadows, positioning himself where he could strike decisively. Each breath was measured, every muscle coiled like a spring. In this moment, the assassin embodied the essence of Bushido: discipline, honor, and unwavering loyalty. As the conspirators carried on, unaware of the silent guardian watching over them, the assassin prepared to enact justice. His blade would be swift and silent, a necessary act to preserve the peace and order of Edo. The city's fate rested on the edge of his sword. The assassin moved with lethal grace through the narrow alley, closing the distance between himself and the conspirators without making a sound. The moonlight reflected off his katana's polished edge as he prepared to strike. His mind was clear, focused solely on the mission: to protect Edo from the chaos these rebels sought to unleash. One swift motion, and the first target fell silently to the ground. His life ended before a whisper could escape. The others barely had time to react before the assassin's blade found its mark again and again, a deadly dance of precision and efficiency. Each movement was a testament to years of training and unwavering discipline. Within moments, the alley was silent save for the assassin's steady breathing. The threat had been neutralized before it could grow. Yet even as he sheathed his sword, the assassin knew this victory was but a single battle in a larger war. Shadows always lingered in Edo, and new dangers would rise with the dawn that he melted back into the night, a ghost once more, leaving behind only the faintest trace of his presence, a silent promise that justice would be served, no matter the cost. The assassin disappeared into the labyrinth of Edo's streets, his heart steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. Though the immediate threat had been extinguished, the deeper currents of rebellion still churned beneath the city's surface. Each strike he made was a small victory, but the war for peace was unending. He sought refuge in a quiet shrine nestled between bustling marketplaces and narrow residential alleys. The tranquil space, with its ancient trees and soft lantern glow, offered a brief sanctuary for the weary warrior. Here, he knelt in silent prayer, seeking guidance and strength from the ancestors who had come before him. The weight of his secret life pressed heavily, but the code of Bushido was his compass, a steady light in a world often shrouded in darkness. Honor demanded sacrifice, loyalty required perseverance, and discipline forged his resolve. Rising from his prayer, the assassin steeled himself for the challenges ahead. Edo's fate rested not only on the edge of his blade, but on his unwavering commitment to the shadows. With quiet determination, he vanished once more into the night, ready to continue his silent vigil. The assassin's footsteps were muffled by the soft earth of the shrine garden, where the scent of incense mingled with the cool night air. He moved with deliberate calm, his mind focused on the next phase of his unending mission. Each encounter, each decision, was a thread in the complex tapestry of Edo's fragile peace, a peace maintained not by the strength of armies, but by the silent vigilance of those like him. Though the city slept, unrest simmered just beneath the surface. Whispers of discontent among samurai, merchants, and peasants alike hinted at deeper fractures threatening to tear the social order apart. The assassin understood that true power lay not only in the sword, but in the knowledge of when to act and when to wait. As he rose from the shrine's stone steps, a messenger awaited him, a young boy cloaked in simple robes, eyes wide but determined. With a quick, silent exchange, the assassin received news of a new threat brewing in the city's outskirts, a rival faction seeking to exploit the current instability. Without hesitation, the assassin vanished into the night, his purpose renewed. The city's fate rested in his hands, and he would walk the path of shadows as long as justice demanded. The assassin disappeared into the winding backstreets of Edo, the city's labyrinth of narrow alleys and hidden passageways providing him the perfect cover. The messenger's warning weighed heavily on his mind. A rival faction was mobilizing, seeking to capitalize on the fragile unrest that simmered beneath the city's surface. This was no ordinary threat. It was a calculated move that could unravel the tenuous peace painstakingly maintained. His footsteps were light, but his resolve was unshakable. Years of training had honed not only his body, but his mind, allowing him to anticipate danger and strike with deadly precision. Tonight, his mission was to infiltrate the faction's stronghold, gather intelligence, and eliminate key figures before their plans could take root. Navigating through shadows and avoiding patrols, the assassin approached the outskirts where the rival faction gathered. The air was thick with tension, the distant sounds of whispered plotting reaching his ears. Every step forward was a test of stealth and discipline, for discovery meant death, not just for him, but for the delicate balance of Edo itself. With the calm patience that defined his existence, the assassin prepared to enter the lion's den, knowing that the coming hours would demand all his skill and resolve. In the stillness before dawn, the assassin emerged from the shadows of the rival faction's stronghold, his mission complete. The key conspirators had been eliminated with swift precision, their plans dismantled before they could ignite rebellion. The fragile peace of Edo had been preserved, though at a cost only he truly understood. As the first light of morning painted the city in soft hues, the assassin paused atop a quiet rooftop, gazing out over the sprawling streets below. The city stirred to life, unaware of the silent guardian who had once again walked through darkness to protect it. His was a life of solitude and sacrifice, bound by an unyielding code that demanded vigilance, honor, and unwavering loyalty. Though the battle had been won, the war for Edo's soul was ongoing. Shadows would always linger, and new threats would arise in the ever-shifting landscape of power and intrigue. Yet the assassin accepted this eternal struggle as his fate, a duty embraced with quiet resolve. With a final breath, he vanished into the labyrinthine alleys, a ghost among the living, forever the silent protector of a city that would never know his name, but owed its peace to his shadow.